the games we did before. We got Eye of Sorrow on Thursday and Metal Slug on Sunday. So yeah, it's UD6 is a tough selection of 10 games, and yeah, the race is going to start. Let's go. So Cyan Mars is with a PB of 59 a minute, tied with Fabulous PB-wise. KTH is the best of all runners today, featured with 52 minutes PB, and Sogitust is the last one with a 1 hour and 10 minutes. So it's going to be interesting to see how close to their PB the runners can get, and see how well they do on Shovel Knight. Shovel Knight is a tough run, but starts fairly easy with that Plains of Hope. Just dancing around, bouncing, pogoing on those enemies, and it gets harder and harder. But the most difficult part of the run is that it's super long. The deaths can be pretty tough on your run. You can lose a lot of time here and there, and you have to remember exactly what routing you're going for, because you have a lot of options on which item you buy, on which checkpoints you destroy, you break to get some money. And we already see KTH dying on that very precise jump on level 1. So yeah, as I told you, Rust is going to be there, but those runners have to de-rust if they want to be there and ready for July the 14th, which will be the first turn of our competitive tournaments.
Yes, this is. I'm not too surprised to see this, even this early on. Shovel Knight was it was a really tough game, and it's there's a certain sort of cadence to a lot of the movement and the jumps that I wouldn't be too surprised if it didn't really click immediately. I mean, there's definitely worse games where it won't click. Shovel Knight it's kind of in the middle, I guess, but definitely I could see that kind of thing being a problem for our runners. You mentioned deaths and safety, and the checkpoints come to mind. Gold needs to be routed in this game to pick up certain upgrades at certain times that you're looking for, and a good way to get gold is to break the checkpoints to get a bunch of gold. But of course, you're breaking your checkpoints, so if you die, you will lose even more time. So there's a risk-reward trade-off, and the dynamics of that are one way in a speedrun such that you kind of don't care. But A, the players are rusty. B, this is a race. You can't just reset and try again. So the players might be prepared to not break a checkpoint that they might usually. I don't know if they even have time to deviate from their route specifically for a race or whatnot. But here we go. We got some Black Knight fights going.
It is an interesting fight because Fabulous lost about, like, I don't know, 30 seconds on that fight. KTH was way behind because he died and got like the correct quick jump cancels, and yeah, it worked nice for him. When Fabulous did not, I don't know if he did not remember the rhythm, the patterns, and how to fight the Black Knight, but he lost a lot of time. And that's the core feature of Shovel Knight speedrun. It's not the platforming, it's not the routing, it's the boss fights. It's where it shines. It's where it really changes from like a classic platformer or just even like DuckTales or any like simple platforming action game, because the boss fights are where the speedruns is going to make real difference. You're going to lose or gain a lot of time depending on how you fight them. There are a lot of different strategies, and that's where the most even the most experienced player in the UD are going to lose time compared to the world record. The world record is incredibly good, and yeah, the the boss fights are incredibly complicated. They're tough, they're precise, the hitboxes of everything is really tight, and you have to know exactly how you want to handle them. And there are a lot of different strategies depending on the weapon you're using, obviously. The Chaos Sphere is probably one of the best weapons. The Bouncing Orb is probably the best weapon to fight the bosses, but it's not that useful anywhere else but for the boss fights. So there's always a trade-off, and we see Fabulous on the top right corner breaking a checkpoint, KTH doing the same thing on the bottom right corner, Sogi Toost also doing that. That's normal, as we said. The runners need money to buy all the upgrades they will be using throughout the entire run.
Cillian Damar's in a pretty tricky screen here with these rats. You can take your time and take them out, but if you want to be going as fast as possible, you need them to cooperate a little bit, and you need to be ready to deal with anything that isn't cooperative. And doing a pretty good job of dealing with the two Joust Knights that kind of pincer you in. KTH also in this tricky screen, opting to do some pogos to get up in the air and over. A lot of them pretty solid into this book section now for Cillian Damars, who is our leader for now. Can go pretty much without stopping, maybe just a slight hesitation right there, and then jumping over the lava, and is closing in on this boss fight against King Knight. And compared to Black Knight, this King Knight fight is much more difficult. Black Knight is kind of an introduction to the basic shovel canceling technique, whereas King Knight will really test your ability to do some stuff here, especially trying to get for these double pogos when he jumps up high. It's really pretty precise, but Cillian Damars not going for the pogos, needed one more hit to finish him off.
Too bad.
So I had to track him down there, but still a fairly solid fight. We'll see how it goes for KTH.
Yeah, being able to kill the boss before he does like his quick dash is already like very good, but it's not even as not close to what the world record does. KTH having a fantastic fight here. Dead center to the in the arena, which is usually something you want to aim for in the Mega Man or Mega Man X series, which Shovel Knight is like very inspired of. But doesn't matter here. You do not have to too many weird optimization in Shovel Knight to take into account. It's just like pure execution. Fabulous. Not that great of a boss fight, but still doing good work. And we see our first route divergence between KTH and Cillian Damars. Cillian Damars opting to go by the Flame Wand, while KTH goes directly to the Leech Yard, where the difficulty clearly spikes up. You have a lot of one hit KO things, like a lot of pits, a lot of spikes, lots of enemies, and now and onwards, you really can die to pretty much anything. A single mistake can cost you a lot of time, but also a lot of gold. And losing gold can be devastating at that point in a run. You do want to keep all that hard earned money via breaking checkpoints and stuff, because if you do lose all your money, you are not able to buy all the stuff you plan to buy. You have to break more checkpoints, which can lead to even more costly deaths, and it can fall pretty far and kill your run pretty much. So this is probably the Leech Yard is probably where the most PB attempts die early. Obviously, you're going to reset a lot everywhere, but you cannot recover usually or die in the Leech Yard. So very tense moment. Cillian Damars passing Fabulous here. KTH in the lead because he did not buy the Flame Wand.
Yeah, currently in these sections where you rely on the enemies to bring down these moving platforms, and also rely on them to get out of the way when you need them to be gone, and you want the platform to go up. The really scary stuff, particularly for a player coming back rusty to this game, I think are these dark sections where you're relying on the lightning to. Well, a normal player would be relying on the lightning to light up the next jump, a speedrunner can memorize where all these platforms are and get a pretty good idea of, you know, if I'm holding right for this long, I'm going to be right here at the edge of this platform. But when your memory is a little hazy, I could see some hesitation on some of these jumps, being a little unsure exactly, am I here, am I there? Is there an enemy on that platform or not? That kind of thing. But it looks like KTH at least is feeling pretty bold on those dark rooms, had no problems, and is going to be into the Spectre Knight fight. A bit of RNG in this fight in terms of where Spectre Knight teleports. So we're going to be hoping for this bottom left.
Oh, he starts bottom left. 2 hits shy from what's optimal, and then now he wants to get lucky and did not, so it's not too bad. Went for safety positioning here, did not try for anything too fancy. And yeah, the Leech Knight, the Spectre Knight, sorry, has set patterns, and on this teleport phase where the sight goes around, you never know exactly if it's going to be bottom right or bottom left. Everything else is set, but yeah, it can always cost a lot of time. You can also juggle the knight on the when he's floating slowly towards you, but that requires very precise shovel canceling, and that's probably where a lot of the expertise of the runners is going to show, because even if it's not needed for the optimal fast kill, it's needed for recovering a few mistakes here and there, and backup strats are usually the hardest to learn, because sometimes when you're practicing the boss fight, you're just going to want to practice the optimal kill. You're not going to be like, okay, I'm going to practice all those very precise tricks just because I might fail, except if you have a lot of time or a lot of experience with the game. But in the UD is a long process, but you have to learn 10 games, and the runners barely had 12 weeks to learn all the 10 games, and learn Shovel Knight a long time ago now, about 2 months ago, and yeah, coming back to it is going to be tough. Maybe it's going to be the one game there's still going to be a lot of learning going on during like September or October. I would not be surprised, because it's long, it's easy to forget, and there are tons of things to practice.
We're seeing this dream sequence. There's a number of these, and when you're a speedrunner, it's a little frustrating because you don't want to deal with this sort of forced waiting section. You'd rather just go, go, go. But if you're looking for some extra money, it's pretty handy. The enemies drop a lot of money in this sequence if you can pick up some kills. So some players will opt to kill themselves, as you know, that will trigger Shield Knight to fall and trigger the end of the sequence a little sooner. But particularly on that first sequence, when you really need money and your health is pretty low, it's or rather, maybe it's more the enemies aren't dealing as much damage, but it takes a while to die, basically. So you know, you're not saving as much time with the forced death, and you could really use that money. So players have done a bit of shopping here. Probably we saw KTH get 2 meal tickets. I expect everyone to get at least 2 here.
So it
and
depends on
other opportunities later on.
Depends on your route. Salian took only 1 because he has 1 for free and did not buy the second one. I do not know yet what he's going to do with his money. Probably buy the Dust Knuckles, but he has a lot of money yet. Probably doesn't want to break any checkpoint in the Mole Knight stage. While KTH bought 2 and the Chaos Sphere, the green orb he has on his magic item there. And yeah, those differences can go a long way. And Sogitoost goes for the trinket. I do not remember exactly what it does. It's the first time we see it in a run during the UD6. It makes you invulnerable for a short period of time, if I recall correctly.
Yeah, it's not too long, and it has kind of like a startup animation, so it's not great for a speedrun, but it is a fantastic safety item. And it would also let you kind of get past enemies that you might otherwise have to damage boost through. So there's a lot of advantages if you want to be safe.
So for those who just join in or do not know, because I don't think we explained in detail what's going on, this is the team tournament. So each team is 5 players. 2 of them are running each game, and each runner in each team has to play exactly 2 games during the 5 of the 5 races we're setting up. So Saint Mars is part of the PB Squared team. They're currently in second place. They've done fantastic on both Eye of Sorrow and Mill Slug.
Ooh. Death for KTH.
Oh, KTH falling after he broke the checkpoint. This one is costly. KTH is on the Kitsune Runners team. They're in 6th position. They went with some very good runners, if we compare that to their PB for Shovel Knight, but apparently it's very, very hard to come back to Shovel Knight after a while, so we'll see how it goes for them. Sugi Toost is part of the Foreigner crew. They're only American and Canadian runners. They're currently in 4th position. They've done average on both games. We haven't streamed their Area of Sorrow race, but Magic K and Mollyman were very close. That those 2 runners did almost the same time. And Fabulous is part of the Take Damage team. They're currently in 3rd position. So yeah, everybody is pretty close together. We've only done 2 games, so no distinct leader so far. But that may really well change with Shovel Knight. We've seen a lot of deaths so far. And Sandamars took the lead currently on the Mole Knight fight.
Yeah, we saw a couple deaths from all 3 of the other players. Soggy Toost had one that was a pretty big setback, one not so much, died on the same screen as the checkpoint. And we just saw one from Fabulous 7 in the same place as KTH. Was falling down with the jelly drop that would turn the instant death lava into the fun bouncy castle. And landed just before the bouncy castle was inflated. So yeah, right there he was taking it really safe, waiting to make sure that he got the jelly. And there's a Mole Knight fight for KTH as well, so is keeping up with Salient to Mars. Soggy Toe showing us that trinket to walk through that enemy. Normally there's a damage boost, or Dust Knuckles actually will get you through that guy pretty well. I didn't see if Soggy Juice picked up the Dust Knuckles. I would have assumed so, but maybe we're seeing a totally different route.
I don't think so. If I just base myself on the money remaining he had, like 5k gold is quite a lot. He's maybe going to buy a lot of extra HP. But yeah, he's waiting here, showing that he does not have the Dust Knuckle. Usually you want to use them on those 2 floating sand blocks, and they will get you up there. Playing very, very safe, getting the chicken on that hidden wall there, and getting on the Mole Knight fight. And 3rd place, Fabulous, right behind him with the Dust Knuckles, and Silent Mars and KTH on the Exploratorium. Probably one of the hardest stages in the entire game, I'd say, with the flying machine. To go fast through it at least, and if you take it slow, it's going to be very slow.
Right, we're seeing Salient to Mars waiting for individual cycles on each of these platforms, whereas a player who's really knows what they're doing and is willing to go for it in a race situation can do that almost without stopping. Not quite, but tons of time to be saved waiting for the cycles on these platforms. And KTH making up a lot of ground on that room, actually.
Yeah. And yeah, San Andreas dying here, very tough part of the level with everything exploding on you. All the squares, the green squares here can be broken, and you might just get knocked back into a pit very, very easily. KTH playing with my nerves here, almost dying. San Andreas almost also dying again, but KTH took the lead, getting in the mid boss first. Interesting fight where the alchemist here is going to morph into a giant monster, but with a good spamming, is going to die very, very soon. He drops health and a ton of money, which is always nice to see. Sandermoss was better shovel canceling, gets the fight faster.
Yeah, the players, I mean, wedging yourself in on the right side there will improve your speed at which you can attack because of that shovel canceling and not being knocked back and all that. But also you're behind the monster after he transforms, so you don't have to be, you know, moving away from him and then turning around and trying to land hits. Though you could use the knockback on him probably to fight him from the front, but then you'd be further away from the edge of the screen. So players doing, you know, getting over him, across him, whichever they could. Good strategy. KTH was going for a little fun little trick here. Maybe Salient will go for it. No, he's not even going to try. Where you manipulate that top Shovel Knight to jump over that block and then pogo off of him as he falls. It's pretty tight to get up there, but saves you walking through this S turn just a little bit. And it's, I don't know, that's the kind of thing where players will, I think it's going to be a pretty even split as to, you know, is this worth it for me to learn? It is pretty precise. It only saves, you know, 3-4 seconds or something. Do I want to put mental energy into learning this thing, or screw it, I'll just go the long way around on this one, learn something else, put my attention there? I'm not sure, but we can see the difference in players' mindset here. We can see now KTH is into this boss fight. This is an incredibly hectic boss fight. Health is a big concern, and it's looking like KTH is going to be fine here.
Yeah, very nice fight using the Chaos Sphere. Nice to get as many hits as you can. The only thing you know with Plague Knight is that he's going to jump towards you. Is that towards you or away from you? Well, you know approximately in which direction he's going to jump, but that's pretty much it. And he's very, very random. He has a lot of patterns. You never know exactly what he's going to do. And you want to get as many hits as you can with your magic abilities, whether it be the Flame Wand or the Chaos Sphere. I'm interested to see how Sugitoost is going to do that fight, because he does not have any offensive ability, actually. He just have his trinket that makes him phase. So the phase locket that make him go through enemies, but that will not help in the boss fight. So we'll see when he gets there. Fabulous is also making good progress towards the boss fight, and Sandermoss and KTH getting to the Iron Well, the second stage of that second part of the run.
Yeah, the game's kind of split up into, I was going to say thirds, but I guess there's also the final area, so maybe quarters, where you need to beat 3 areas to move on to the next area, and those 3 to move on to the next. So we're in the second phase here with the Iron Whale. KTH has got the Conjurer's Coat, which will double your mana, but it will make you take, I think it's 1.5 times damage. So, yeah.
It adds one half heart for each damage you take, so it doubles if you were to take like half a heart, and if you were to take a full heart of damage, it goes for 1.5, which, yeah, pretty much like doubles, or well, you take more damage, and usually you have to play safer, or you have to get more hearts to go through the game. Maybe we'll see KTH go for 10 full hearts after the flying machine, or right before the flying machine. I don't know exactly what he's going to do. There are like many different routes health-wise, because you want to be able to go through the levels fast, so you need a lot of mana, but you also want to survive the boss rush that's going to happen at the end of the game. The refights are incredibly tough, because once again the boss fights are what's the most complicated part of the game, where you're going to lose a lot of time or gain a lot of time. Sandermoss beat the mini boss here first, but took his time to buy the Anchors, a very useful item, very nice one to get, but not really worth it in the speedrun. But it's a nice safety strat, and Sandermoss took it like very safe throughout the entire run, did not go for any of the crazier skips or techniques, and is making good progress, did not die so much. So going safe and sound through the game so far.
Yeah, the sort of the story between our two leaders, Salien and KTH, has been KTH making up ground through a faster route, and then losing ground due to some kind of mistake. So we're seeing this trade-off between speed and safety, actually trading back and forth throughout this run between these two players. It's been pretty interesting to watch it unfold. Salien needs some more health here, so he's going to detour over to the left, and we're going to see KTH take the lead just a little bit as we approach the Treasure Knight fight. He does a ton of damage with that anchor, and just something about the way he moves, the way he dashes really quickly and then slows down. I don't know. I find it hard to keep a beat on this guy.
The Chaos Sphere might do some good work, but careful KTH not to take too many hits. Only one heart remaining, but yeah, good timing on those shots. Cylinder Mars very close behind, almost the same fight. And yeah, it's very, very close between those two, but they're using very, very different techniques and routes, and even it shows how much speedrun can vary depending on how you consider the game. Do you want just to be able to beat the game? Do you want to be able to beat the world record? But if you're not quite there yet, you're going to take a lot of deaths and lose a lot of time here and there. Obviously, KTH with some good TRS and some grinding and some practice will always beat the Salient's round. But so far, it's a different story we see, and that's totally understandable. We see the runners farming once again on that dream section. Well, Cylinder Mars is farming, and KTH is trying to die as fast as possible, apparently.
Yeah, there's now like a 5,000 gold difference between the two, though it's a little weird because they've purchased different items. Definitely a big difference in their routes. We're seeing that meal ticket getting picked up. There's some cases where like you get those free meal tickets, but you still have to walk over and pick it up. You still have to go back to town to cash it in. So even if it's right there, it's still a bit of a time investment to go get it. So if you really want to, shave frames and seconds and whatnot, players may opt to even pass up on those more or less freebies.
Cylinder Mars buying the charge slash and going back to the first village to cash in those meal tickets. So he's going to buy a lot of health. He's grabbing that music sheet to get some extra money. So yeah, he's going to buy a lot of health. They're going to play it safe, and KTH is going to be like about a minute and a half ahead of him. It's going to be interesting to see if KTH either goes by health at some point in the run or just tries to survive with that minute lead. We'll see how well it works for him. Fabulous killing the Treasure Knight, and Sogitust right behind him. It's a long time behind KTH and Cylinder Mars, but once again, it's a long game. We still have about half an hour to go, and we'll see how the runners do in the second half of the game, which is obviously the harder one. We still have the boss rush, the refights to go through. We still have a lot of things to see, and we still have the flying dagger. I don't remember the. I need to de-rest my commentary.
Propeller dagger.
Yeah, the propeller dagger. Thanks, which allows you to dash through the air, and which is a fantastic weapon because it allows for some sweet movement optimizations. But obviously, movement optimization in this game uses mana. Mana is hard to come by, and you have to know exactly when you want to use it. So it's an interesting one.
Yeah, you obviously, you fly, which has really obvious advantages when you're trying to move through a platformer. But you also just go pretty fast. So even if there's nothing to fly over, it is a pretty big advantage to just be able to spend your mana to go a little faster. often you, especially if you don't have the Conjurer's Coat, you're probably going to be saving your Propeller Dagger usage for cases where flying actually matters. It gets you over a pit, prevents you from having to jump on a platform, that kind of thing. But KTH with the Conjurer's Coat is free to be a little more liberal with the Propeller Dagger and use it just to speed up movement a little bit. We saw him playing it safe earlier against these the Jawas, I think is what the community likes to call them, the little Star Wars sand person in a hood looking dudes with the propellers. They're jerks. They are the worst. Their AI is really good at finding you and then blowing you into a pit. So KTH was playing it pretty safe, charging up a slash, waiting in the fan to line up the hit. And they're not too bad if you play it that way. But if you're trying to speedrun, then you're not going to wait. Well, no, this is a speedrun. That's not fair. If you're trying to go as fast as possible and really optimize, then things are going to get pretty risky around those guys. This is another room where you can go so much faster if you're willing to really risk it, but KTH is going to take that room pretty safely, following the wind up and down.
It's incredible.
See what he does here. 1, 2, 3. Yeah.
Going for it. Nice. These spikes in combination with the wind is going to be like a serial killer for a lot of runners, because it's like all the dagger usage are very tight. You need to be exact, and like just a single frame of hesitation will lead to something terrible. Sandemar's dying here after killing the Jawas. Thankfully, he took the checkpoint right before it, but yeah, dying there is going to be tough for him. And KTH had a good fight on Propeller Knight.
Yeah, he had one hit, well, 2 hits, I guess, because each one is double, but 1 block of health left to get a quick kill. Once he's up there, it can be hard to go up and get him, but overall, it's a very solid fight. Salian burning through all his magic on the run back to just totally burn down the Jawas. So he's going to get a refill here in this auto-scroller section, as we're getting some stuff going on from Soggy Toost, who is just entering this really long, difficult Propeller Knight stage. Fabulous is about halfway through as KTH is moving on to, I don't know what the level is called, but it's Tinker Knight's stage. The Clock Tower?
It's the Clock Tower, yeah.
Yeah.
It's with those gears in the background, very Castlevania-y, with like all those moving elements, and a lot of stuff is going to try to get you. A lot of ladders, a lot of those fairies, those floating enemies will get you sometime, and that's a level where we are going to get the mobile platform, a very nice addition to our selection of gears. So here KTH entering this secret room is going to buy his final weapon. It's so it's a gear you can just place wherever you want, and it's going to help you. It gives you like 1 tile of extra height, so you can make some pretty sweet jumps with it, and it can go across spikes. So we're going to see it there, and in that level, and in Polar Knight's level, quite often. It's a nice little piece of gear, but it's almost like mandatory at that point. It saves so much time here single-handedly, just like allowing you to not be stuck with the auto-scroller. Very nice.
It also helps quite a bit on the Tinker Knight boss fight. I don't know if it's a callback to Metal Man in Mega Man 2 being weak to his own weapon, but we'll see the gear be put to good use on the first phase of the boss fight coming up. Speaking of boss fights, Salian Demars gets Propeller Knight down. Didn't quite get him in the 1 cycle, but is going to be pretty happy to be done with this stage, I think. Soggy Tooth picking up the Propeller Dagger, and Fabulous is pretty far along the stage now, but maintains a decent lead over Soggy Tooth for now.
Yeah, all the runners are pretty spread out, which is surprising. Salian Demars and Fabulous have almost the same PB, and Fabulous took quite a few deaths, actually very costly, and He's now half a level behind, and we'll see once again how well it goes for them. But it would be very surprising to see like a huge change of pace in the second half of the game. KTH has a pretty solid lead, but it's almost only due to round differences between him and Cylinder Mars. Cylinder Mars took once again a huge detour after Treasure Knight. So we'll see. And yeah, this is like, now that you've said it, it's obviously a Metal Man reference. Like,
you got the gears moving all over the place. Yeah,
it's.
But unfortunately, that's not the end of the fight for Tinker Knight. He comes back. The gear can still help out in phase 2 a little bit. It does 1 full damage, so if you can plonk that thing on his head, it helps out a little bit. Players might opt to go with Dust Knuckles to kind of punch back and forth and hopefully get into a pogo and continue getting up there. But as you work the gear in there at least once, a pretty solid fight. Opting for a lot of pogos is a really safe, consistent way to fight Tinker Knight, and it worked out really well for KTH.
He got a fantastic start of the fight with the Dust Knuckles into a pogo up onto there, not having to use the missiles or the helps. He sends you the weapons he throws at you that helps you get up there. Being able mid-fight to start the gear.
No.
Oh no, Fabulous!
Not one hit away from killing Propeller Knight. Gets hit. The damage boost to the right, kind of inexplicably. It looked like he should have gone left to me, but right he went into the pit.
Yeah, that's very unlucky. Has to start again using his propeller dagger during this phase to get hit there. Going to use his charge slash to deal full halt of damage each pass. Plus the pogo, very nicely executed there.
Ooh. Soggy-Tooth with a scary moment, pogoing off some cannonballs, took a hit and managed to get the pogo from like the inside of the cannonball. Meanwhile, Fabulous taking another death on this Propeller Knight. Hopefully not getting inside his head a little bit here.
Yeah, the fight is actually kind of complicated. If you have like perfect shovel canceling at the start, you can get like some very, very good ground on him and just like quickly finishing the fight while he swooshes at you. But yeah, it takes a lot of practice. Fabulous has the second phase really well down here with the charge slash but the pogo, but sadly he has to go up there and pogo while the Propeller Knight tries to attack you, but yeah, then he does that. So it's a tough fight. It should be done soon. Yeah, okay. Nice job.
Is going to be very happy to move on, but has lost quite a bit of ground to Soggy-Tooth, who has now just finished the final blow onto Propeller Knight, and Salian doing the same to the first phase of Tinker Knight, going to be dropping down for phase 2. But KTH, through a faster route and through, I think, just much better execution through the clock tower, has gained a pretty big lead over Salient Demars. We're seeing the anchors here being put to good use. I think this is probably one of the biggest reasons to get the anchor.
Salient Demars is only second game he ran on Thursday, Castlevania Eye of Sorrow. So this will be all the points he can bring to the table. But he did very well on Eye of Sorrow, getting 145. So we'll see, but the run is going nicely for him. Shovel Knight is going to be harder to bring a lot of points because the 100 points mark is at 1 hour, which is already a decent time on the game, to be honest. It's not that easy to get compared to some other 100 points, namely Cuphead or Spectral Ball in the UD6. I don't know yet what game we're going to see tomorrow, but depending obviously on what the draft. Some runners will be very happy or very unhappy. Obviously, this is all the RNG elements mixed into the actual format. Polar Knight is probably one of the scariest knights because he has some of those spikes that kills you in one hit that he shovels through and then covered them. But KTH with the Chaos Orb, no problem whatsoever. Got him in like almost just the first phase. and Sound Morse has still like half of a level behind. He's half of the level behind. But yeah, using like the correct weapons here and there, doing the correct strats safely, but does not waste too much time in movement, which is a very good sign. I'm surprised actually his PB is only 59 minutes. He plays better than me, and he should be at least like at 57, I'd say.
Well, it's one of those things where it's a really long run, so it's tough to put together a solid single segment run, like a real speed run when you're just doing your practice. So it's the kind of thing I think where early on, as long as you're putting in practice between your attempts, you'll see these big chunks of time come off of your PB. So also I looked and made sure that we didn't see any PB updates on the leaderboards for Shovel Knight. And by the way, if you go to the UD page, you can click Championship, and you see these leaderboards. You can filter this stuff in a lot of interesting ways, and it can be fun to poke around with the data, look at some of the runners and stuff. So I was looking at it. Did anyone submit a new PB as of July 7th or July at all? And it was basically just Jats who put up a 75-point time. Everyone else is kind of operating, has not improved their personal best since quite a while ago. So pretty much no one is operating at their best for this race. In terms of PB, certainly if you put in some practice time, like you said, that PB can be a bit of a liar in determining kind of where your skill level is and what kind of time you can get in a race. But yeah, that's where we stand for now. KTH is moving on to the Tower of Fate, I think it is. It's probably some of the toughest stuff in the game, and he's got a pretty big lead, but the way this tournament works is you're playing for points. You're trying to earn as many points as you can for your team. So if you can beat the other guy by 20 seconds rather than 10 seconds or something, that's going to earn you more points. And so that's all the reason to always go as fast as you can. You don't necessarily want to be coasting on a lead that you've earned for yourself.
Yeah, winning the race is not going to cut it. You want to go as fast as possible. You cannot just base your strategy off what you see, what the other runners do, because like KTH team is almost is 80 points behind Silent Mars team overall. So even if he like has a huge lead, like a 20 minutes lead, it's not going to be enough to catch up. That's why we have like those 10 scores, two scores per game, 2 different runners per game per team. And like you try to earn as much as you can for your team, but sometimes even with like a fantastic Shovel Knight run, it will not be enough. But KTH gets to the refight for Black Knight. Black Knight was an easy fight earlier, and now it got upgraded significantly. And but with the proper dagger here, KTH gets a good juggling going on.
Nice. There's a transformation mid-fight. If you let him breathe for even a moment, he will sprout wings, take off into the sky. And if you get a really good pogo, you can follow him up there and deal some damage. But more than likely, you're going to be stuck on the ground waiting for him to come down. And so obviously it's a time waste. If your shovel canceling is amazing, you can lock him into the corner the way you did in the other fights. But you need to be very, very precise with that.
The margin of error is about 3 or 4 frames for that, so
yeah. So
like
most players are
repeatedly.
going with the propeller dagger to kind of close the distance and just worry about the cadence, the timing. 1, 2, 3. Not too fast. You do actually want to wait just a little bit, but KTH did exactly that. Did a fantastic Black Knight 3 fight there.
Very nice. Silent Mars is almost one entire level now behind KTH. Still taking it slow and safe ahead of Fabulous and Soggy Tooth. Fabulous is at the middle of the Polar Knight fight stage, and Soggy Tooth is going to start it right now. So yeah, it's starting to the race is tail is starting to take shape, with KTH having a slow start. To be honest, he took some huge death, but he got going. Like he clearly got his.
Ooh, uh-oh.
Oh
yeah,
no!
that's not going to work out. That platform, his ride left without him. Someone hold the elevator too late. KTH is going to take a death there, but the checkpoint's pretty close there. So as far as deaths go, not the worst one to take.
Probably the worst room in the game. You cannot take anything. Like, yeah, he does not have any margin there. So switching his weapon too slowly is killing him. He wants to put the platform, the moving platform, lower, so he kills the enemy. Here he does it, and then having a bit of more space.
Okay.
There. And then it's not over because he wants to go above the screen, Super Mario Bros. Style, but those Jawas may be able to throw him off. But now, good job getting that checkpoint, almost breaking it. And
oh no, I was just about to say he's not out of it yet, because this auto-scroller, while it's not too bad, right at the start of it, something can happen, and it did. It absolutely did happen.
Is it the first time we see that in a stream? Because like
it might be,
but it's the only place where if you go off screen you're going to die. Usually, even like in the Propeller Knight stage, unlike the old school NES games, where even if you were to fall into another screen, if you don't take the ladder, you're not able to scroll the screen and you die in the old NES games. In Shovel Knight, it's all coherent. If you get from one screen to another with a ladder, even if you fall into the first screen, you don't die. Except there. This is the only place in the entire game where it does that. And yeah, so as I was saying, KTH got a very good second half of the game. He died twice, still in the lead, but you know, that's the kind of small mistakes that can get into your head. Hope KTH still has it for the boss rush coming up quickly. He only has 6 HP, which is enough, but not too much when you compare to Sugitoast 8 HP and no Conjurer's Coat, or Sandemar's 6 HP and once again no Conjurer's Coat, which pretty much doubles the damage you take during the boss fights.
Stanley Demar's having a bit of trouble with Black Knight, not getting the timing. Not only did he have to wait for that back and forth, you know, projectile attack, but also triggered this flying phase pretty early on, so is managed to get up there with the pogos. Big damage taken from KTH on Spectre. You do get the health refills in between each fight, but it can kind of go wrong on almost any of these fights, really. Certainly others are bigger offenders. Some are bigger offenders than others, rather. Spectre, usually probably one you're not too worried about, but KTH having a bit of a scare there. Black Knight is down now for Salient Demars. Fabulous joining him in the Tower of Fate, though, is way back at the start of the level, and Salient is moving on now to the second phase. KTH waiting on the left side for Propeller, manages to get up there a little bit, but is down to half a hit. Okay, he cannot get hit by anything now, and he still needs to find 8 hits to deliver to Propeller Knight. Whoa, whoa, whoa.
This one is scary.
Oh
no! Oh god, it's so close. While KTH was losing a lot of health on Propeller Knight, Sugitus showed us that he did not buy the phase locket for nothing. Like, he's spamming time on that Polar Knight stage, and once again, going safe is probably necessarily going to be slower, but being able to go through Shovel Knight in less than an hour and a half is already like a good feat. It means that you understand exactly what's going on, that you have a route planned, and that you know very well how the run is going. KTH takes, you know, back what he let go on the first attempt and kills Popular Knight without losing a single HP. And starts with Polar Knight. Polar Knight is always one of the 3 first bosses and in the boss rush. The order is random except for that rule.
Yeah, he's got those spikes, so the developers thought it would be unfair to include the instant death boss somewhere towards the end of the boss rush. So for that sake, they put him in early. It's the only thing you can count on.
You asked me, I put in another way around and went for spikes on every single boss, so it would have balanced it out. But
oh no.
Very good. King Knight right here. And we get into Mole Knight. He still has some pretty tough boss. Plague Knight can be very tricky. And Tinker Knight also. Spectre Knight can cost you a lot of time. But he's mostly... He should not die with those 4 bosses left. We'll see how it goes. Between each boss you have a health refill, and between each 2 bosses or the other one, every other one, you get a mana refill. So a mana pot that gives you 40 mana points. So the game is generous with you. It's not do all the bosses in a row with just your health. It would be too brutal, obviously.
Yeah, it would be probably a different route from a lot of players. You can also be pretty clever about how you use the health refill, because it sits there on the dinner plate in the middle of the battle. So if you can leave it there and use your remaining health a little bit during the fight, and then if you get low, then you can maybe find your way to the middle of the room, break it open, and eat it. Oh, okay, he's getting hit by the gold there a little bit, but does manage to keep up the damage on Treasure Knight. Has 2 bosses left. It's going to get Tinker and then Spectre to finish it out. Salient to Mars is done with Polar in the boss rush now. It would be funny if there was no second phase to Tinker Knight for the refight. You just take him out and then moves on the next one. No such luck.
He's always traveling with his entire suit. He's like Iron Man. He has his carry-on full-on armor with treadmills and missiles and whatnot. And yeah, the fight goes the same way. Nice pogos onto his little head. His helmet does not protect him too much. And yeah, very nice fight. Spectre Knight last. Spectre Knight can be tough, especially with the Conjurer coat, but he has this health in the middle, so that's pretty much 11 HP he has to work with. Nice start, using his charge slashes, hoping for good RNG, which he gets. Very nice. And KTH is currently in the lead on the bottom right corner. Second is Salient to Mars, also on the refights, and then Fabulous and Sogitus are on the same tower. Level 1 for Sogitus and level 2 for Fabulous.
Yeah, the players are pretty spread out with their KTH 1, Salient 2, Fabulous 3, Sogitus 4. And I don't know if we're going to see too much change between this. Certainly, if things go wrong late into the boss rush, you can see a huge swing. But KTH is now done with that boss rush. And, things can go wrong on the Enchantress. I forget where the game puts you if you die on Enchantress. So you don't have to wait out this beginning block section again, right?
It puts you just at the start of the current phase you're on. So if you die in phase 2, you get on phase 2 at the start of phase 2. If you die in phase 1, same story. So the game is, to be honest, the game has like a good balance with where the checkpoints and how the difficulty. It's not too mean on the runners. Oh, not trying not to fall there. KTH taking a hit. That waiting screen though, we see a lot of deaths there just because the runners get bored, and you don't want to get bored runner into a race because that's always bad for you. Weird section where the block disappear. Those are not Yoku block. They just like fly under you as soon as you are at the correct position. It's always weird. And yeah, you get that nice checkpoint that you cannot break. And then we get into the final boss.
Did he mean to put that gear there? I guess he did, if he can get over. Yeah, nice.
Yeah, exactly. So you put that gear there, and you know that the behavior of the Enchantress is always the same. But careful, only 2 HP left.
Trying to go for the slam dunk, or I don't know what that is, but trying to drop the orb down into the gap to do some last minute damage. Is now down to 1 hit, so can't get hit by anything. Enchantress dashing back and forth is up top and nice and vulnerable now.
I'm
play.
Got
kind of trapped there.
Yeah, he was playing it safe, and that's what killed him. It's really tough to have a good grasp on the situation. He knew clearly that he had only 1 HP because he took a lot of hits, and sadly it was like, what do I do now? How do I play it safe? And for him going harder on the boss, he probably would have died also, but would not have put himself into that situation where he skipped an entire cycle and had to he would have to go through the entire Enchantress in the bottom part of the screen again. So it was tough. It was very, very difficult for KTH there, taking a couple of hits there and finishing it off nicely. And we get into phase 2. Mars entering the stage, so closing the gap thanks to KTH mistakes. But yeah, the final phase of the Enchantress is not too bad, so KTH should get that sub 1 hour.
He hopefully is feeling pretty solid after dying to Enchantress, but then coming back and having a nice fight. We're moving on to phase 2 here, where you've got Shield Knight. You freed her, but the Enchantress's evil soul or something is running rampant and needs to be stopped. So he's going to get up there off the Shield Knight, and now you want to try to stay up there, but the propeller was too high and then too low, so he's not going to be able to do any more damage. He's going to have to wait for a whole nother cycle here. See if you can capitalize on this one. It's tricky because you're off the top of the screen, so you don't really know where you are relative to her. Phase 2 now, she starts doing the stomp and starts breaking the level apart, and that's going to be enough to get it done.
And that's time for KTH in 56 minutes and 3 seconds. Mars died in that silly room. As I was reading in chat that he was actually on PB pace. I'm not surprised. He played that game, that race, very, very nice. Still had some deaths and errors, so he is able to. He will do better fairly soon. I hope he will join the July tournament, and we should see some very good results from Mars.
We got Fabulous now into the boss rush as Soggy Toost has let Black Knight get away and is in a pretty low health situation here. So has the pogo going a little bit, and now we're into the meteors. I find these are kind of a problem. So he's just going for the offense, trying to trade hits, and manages to get it done. Sailing into phase 1 of the Enchantress now, reflecting these shots. KTH had an opportunity to reflect these shots on that first go around, and he opted not to. I don't know if it was panic, wasn't prepared for exactly where the shots were going to be, like you are on the first phase. But it's a pretty good way to deal some damage.
You're supposed to kill her before this phase starts again. So I don't know. Usually, yeah, you want to kill her now using charge slashes, and she spins around while shooting, and it can be very tricky to bounce the shots back, which is like pretty much Shovel Knight's special move. If you've done the other campaigns with Plague Knight and Spectre Knight, Shovel Knight only distinguishes himself by being able to deflect with his shovel pretty much anything, which is like surprising sometimes. Like, oh, I can pogo on that, or just slash that fire orb back at the enemy, which is a lot of the strats, advanced strats, as we've seen on the Enchantress phase 1, rely on that. Mars on phase 2 will select with the purple dagger already selected. Is going to go ham use Shield Knight, and yeah, use the slams here to be able to get a few hits. And very clean run, 58.35. That's a PB for Cyan Mars. Very good run overall. Only 2 minutes behind KTH, while their PB were 8 minutes apart before the race started. So congrats to Cyan Mars.
Just think how much that time is going to come down if Stanley DeMars keeps up with Shovel Knight, cuts out a couple of those deaths. Could be seeing some, you know, pushing the 50-hour mark in not too long. Like you said, some really solid play. The skill level is there, and honestly, not too bad for a race. I don't think everyone that we've had on stream has had, you know, multiple deaths. And I think it's probably a similar story for the other teams competing off stream. So, you know, pretty much doing it with the rest of the group here. And hopefully it feels pretty good about that PB. Is seeing a little bit of the, I don't know what it is in French, but the whatever, like, it's like apple whale. There's some portmanteau for this delightful fellow. But for now, we're seeing Fabulous move on. He's finished the boss fight just as the 1 hour mark ticks over, and is going to be going after the Enchantress shortly.
Hopefully does not die there. Once again, that room is trickier than it looks. Everything pretty much in Shovel Knight is trickier than it looks, which you know, is always interesting. It's usually the case in speedruns. Things tend to look easier than they usually are. It's very easy to underestimate all the work and the optimization the runners put in their game. And yeah, Shovel Knight is no different. If you go and watch the world record, which is at 42 minutes, it's absolutely insane how optimized the run is. And obviously that's not the skill level the runners are going to get during the UD. Being able to beat the game deathless, being confident in their strat, being able to go through the boss rush without dying is already like fairly substantial. And yeah, it's really not easy. I still really enjoy Sugitoost's strat with the phase locket, getting lots of invulnerability frames with that, being able to walk on spikes during the Polar Knight fight, very nice. And he has a lot of HP also, so he's taking it very safe, and he's maybe on PB pace if he cleans the boss rush without dying. It's Sugitoost's PB is 1 hour and 10 minutes. The Enchantress takes about 4 minutes. So yeah, we could see another PB there.
Fabulous onto the second go around through this diving pattern. And that stray orb is going to find Enchantress and connect. Moving on to Phase 2, Sugitoost has got Propeller Knight in the corner and can't really do much about it, so is waiting it out here. Is getting one Pogo. I don't think he has the Charge Slash, so can't be hitting him for double the damage while he waits. But does manage to barely find him. Got pretty low on health there. Yeah. It's going to go right for that chicken in this Tinker Knight fight.
So Tinker Knight is a bit different from the first time you go for him on the clock tower, because you are usually not positioned the way you would like to be able to throw the moving gear at him. So you always try to dodge him just a little bit, and sometimes it goes all ways of wrong, and you have troubles hitting him and one-shotting him. So you can see the runners like trying to get their health and then move a bit and then throw the gear. It's always a little bit weird, but very clean fight using only pogos on the second phase of Tinker Knight there, taking a single hit and yeah, taking the health and going for Spectre Knight.
Fabulous took a death, fairly late into the Enchantress 2 fight, went down for the Pogo, and missed the head, and it winded up right in the pit that opens up below the head. That's you right where the pit is right where the boss is right where you want to be with your pogo, and yeah, pretty similar situation right there.
Oh, why? So when she slams into the ground, her hands are what deals damage. So she aims for a center pillar with her head, and you can stay on that one, or you have to be one entire pillar away to dodge the hands, and then you want to jump above that to be able to pogo onto her. But yeah, it can be tricky, and once again he's out of position, barely makes it there, using a lot of charge propeller daggers, and finally makes it. But yeah, he has to just take maybe a bit of practice back onto this this fight, because those were 2 deaths. It clearly could have avoided being like rusty, I guess. Once again, those runners played a lot of Shovel Knight back in April and May, and then we announced like a lot of stuff, and
situation right there.
yeah, tough run.
We'll go ahead and put the audio on our there were Fabulous tuned in just in time to hear us talk about his most recent death. Pretty not the most encouraging thing after you finally do beat the game, but he will hear us praise his wonderful play, and even though he's a bit behind PB in this race, minutes or so, it was some pretty small mistakes that lead to the big time loss, really, and that's just kind of the way Shovel Knight goes. It is pretty tough, and there are some moments that can be quite punishing. Sawtooth is done now with the boss rush. Is going to be moving on to the Enchantress fight. Is hoping to finish under that the 110.19, I think it was. Yes, is the current PB for Sawtooth. So we could be seeing a slight improvement if this whole Enchantress sequence goes well.
Yeah. Oh, careful. Once again, this room, I hate it. I know, yeah, it's so bad. Like I don't like when you just watch that stream. You're like, yeah, okay, no problem. I just have to wait. And for some reason, it's way harder than it looks. I hate it. As we see the death on the Explodatorium and the Flying Machine and the Stranded Ship and the Tower of Fate, and twice on the final level for Cylinder Mars, died 6 times, still gets a minute PB. So yeah, that has to be very encouraging for him. He has a lot of ground to make. He still doesn't go for the harder route. I wouldn't totally understand if he sticks with that route. It is like the flame wound into no Conjurer's Coat is way easier and less punitive than what KTH did. That's why KTH died more and had some more punitive death. Still manages to get a 56 minutes though, so very nice. And Sawtooth, if anyone wants to get onto Shovel Knight, gets like a good idea on how to speedrun the game, get his phase locket route down, because apparently that helps quite a lot, especially on the harder levels. The Stranded Ship and the Polar Knight fight, he has a lot of HP also, and will still get a pretty decent time. I'm fairly sure he will try to improve. Sawtooth is one of the newest runners in the UD. I do not remember when he joined, but does not have time for every game yet. He has still to learn Castlevania Eye of Sorrow and DKC, but has a fantastic time on Inertia. He's one of the best runners for the game, so sometimes you get some good lead on some games, and sometimes it's harder on others, depending on what genres you're more comfortable with.
Those are also 2 of the biggest undertakings, along with Shovel Knight in the UD, I think. Those are maybe my top 3 for time required to really get the solid time: Castlevania, DKC, and Shovel Knight. So to complete the decathlon, has left the biggest hurdle for last until he gets there. For now, we've got Shovel Knight. He's completed with no magic the first enchant phase, burned all of the magic, just doing Propeller Dagger through the rising block section. Hadn't memorized where the blocks were going to be, actually, so was actually waiting and jumping block to block, and was putting that wonderful phase locket you mentioned to use in the block waiting section. We're seeing a little bit of it now since he gets that refill. Nice dodging.
I mean,
not going to be going
might
for
as well
Propeller
use
Dagger
it
here.
since he doesn't have the Propeller Dagger. Being able not to die is like a very useful skill to have on Shovel Knight. Once you've pogoed 3 times or 4 times on her head, she will dash away from you. So you cannot do as many hits per phase as you would with any other weapon. And oh no, it does not jump in time there. It's not able to get onto her head, get a couple of free hits. But yeah, that
Shield Knight's
fight
placement
very
not
long.
quite good there, but did manage to tag 1 hit. Regular attack. This fight needs to find 1 hit somewhere, and then 1 set of 3 more pogos.
Let's go. That's your hit.
Phase Locket.
Should have phase locket through that phase because you could have ended it there, right there. But yeah, that's it for him. 1, 10, and 10 seconds. That's PB for Sugi Toast. If he submitted all these PBs onto the UD leaderboard, sometimes the runners don't have time to update each time they get a run going. But yeah, still very nice run from all the runners. We still have a lot of times to get a complete look at what the final team tournament
Set of 3 more pogos.
leaderboard is going to look like. But so far, fabulous team with Toru getting at 95 points is first with 670 points from the first 3 games. So we'll see how it goes, how it breaks down. But congrats to all the runners that have run so far. We still have a couple of times to wait for. And yeah, I did use the random wheel to get the game we're going to play tomorrow because the team tournament is not done. So tomorrow it's going to be. Let me check before I announce the wrong one. Where is it? It is there. So I have nice spinning wheel, and tomorrow it's going to be a story about my uncle. Okay, I would have gotten it wrong. So tomorrow we are doing a story about my uncle as the 4th game. Each team is going to have to get 2 runners to run the game, but if the runners that have to go for exactly 2 games during the tournament, so it's Silent Mars is already done for team PB squared. Vlad is already done for the speedrun squad, and Mollyman for the Foreigner crew. So every team has to find 2 good runners onto a story about my uncle. I'm very liking that selection so far because we are doing all the earlier game from the UD6, so everybody has to practice and go back to all the games, get the rust off, and yeah, it's going to be very nice. I haven't watched so much of I haven't seen so many streams of a story about my uncle in the past few days, a few weeks even. So we'll see how well the runners remember the game.
Yeah, we've gone from 2D. Am I crazy, or did we do Metal Slug first? We did, right? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So we started with a 2D run and gun, and then a 2D platformer Metroid. We were going grappling, flying through large 3D environments in a first-person perspective. These sorts of changes in game style and genre are about the UD. And honestly, you can't pick 5 games that all kind of are the same because there so many of them are different enough. So it kind of had to deviate a little bit, and I'm really looking forward to a story about my uncle. That's going to be tomorrow at what time?
Same time, 11 a.m. for all the Eastern time, EDT, for all those who are up so early in the morning. It's 5 p.m. CEST, so it's not too bad for us European. But we'll see how well it goes. I hope I will not have too much trouble finding 4 players that are okay to be streamed, because once again, all the runners, I know it already, are going to go like, oh no, I'm too rusty. It's going to be a poor show if you stream my race. But yeah, I'm very excited to see how well the runners do, because I know some players stick with the run because it's so different, and grapple games are always like very fun to speedrun. It's always a lot of momentum conservation and a lot of things are going on all together, a lot of skips. And Urban Miracle is obviously no different. It's a very cool speedrun, so we'll see that tomorrow. And yeah, have a good one. We'll have the complete leaderboard for the team tournament completed tonight, I think, depending on when the runners submit their time, and maybe the team, Fabulous team will stay first. The Take Damage team, we'll see how well everybody else does. Obviously, Shovel Knight still has a lot of de-rusting to do, to go through before the July the 14th, because next week, in exactly 7 days, we are going to have our first competitive tournament. So all the runners are going to play through 5 games in a row, and the best 8 are going to pass to the second turn when we are going to do the other 5 games. So it's going to be very exciting, very difficult if you are rusty on any single game. So yeah, good luck to anyone that wants to join the tournament. Obviously, Zoff, Melwest, Devil Tifa are probably going to be there and in very good shape. And yeah, it's going to be interesting to see, because yeah, I don't know what you thought about what we've seen on Shovel Knight, but we can have a lot of surprises actually.
I mean, between all the routes that players are going to be following, and if someone adopts a different route than what they're doing right now because they've had time to put in and learn new things, I fully expect to continue to be surprised by Shovel Knight in particular, just because it's much depth to it. Yeah, really looking forward to it. Like you said, I do want to shout out the speed gaming, where the only thing on right now. So early on in the morning, I think the channel is probably going to go down for just a little bit, but things get kicked off with minutes after that here on this channel, and then all kinds of things with Dark Souls, or I just accidentally added something, so I'm canceled. That doesn't exist. I wanted to click on The Legend of Zelda Oracle of something that's been starting up lately. Channels today, so hope you guys look forward to that.
Okay, have a good one, everybody. Thanks a lot for watching, and stay tuned tomorrow at 11 a.m. EDT for the next round of the GD6 team tournament.